So this was a Capricorn dungeon. So you may have seen news about the Capricorn recording studio on MLK. It's being revitalized. Great thing for the city. Plans are to open it in December, in time for the 50th anniversary of the studio. So in the 70s, if you don't know, it was a hotbed for Southern rock. Allman Brothers, Wet Willie, Marshall Tucker Band, Charlie Daniels Band, more were recording there. Many of those bands actually played here at Grant's, where we're at tonight. Yeah. So the studio originally was purchased by Phil and Alan Walden and Otis Redding, 68 or so, 69. Musician Paul Hornsby once said that a lot of magic went on there during the 70s, but decades later the studio was shut down. So the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation hosts these events called Rambles. You can buy tickets and enjoy a weekend of touring historic homes and sites, usually includes some meals. It's a pretty good time if you ever check one out. But several years ago, they hosted a ramble in Macon, and we bought tickets for sort of a fun staycation. And one of the sites on the tour list was the Capricorn recording studio. So I don't know if any of you have ever been into the studio before they did any work on it. But when you walk into this old brick building painted white on MLK, the ceilings were coming down, sections of the floor were collapsing. There was caution tape up to block particularly bad sections. Aside from the decaying building, when you walked into the booth and recording space, it was like it had been frozen in time. The controls were all analog with knobs and physical switches. The meters had needles to indicate levels. There's no digital displays anywhere. There was an overdose of wood paneling everywhere. When you stepped out into the recording space, it was like stepping out of a time machine. The walls were still covered with various materials to influence the sound. Think red velvet, wooden shingles, brick. Imagine the late nights of alcohol and drug-infused creativity that carried on there so many years ago. It was like one day everyone just walked out, turned off the lights, locked the doors, leaving everything as it was. Lucky for us, our good friend was the guide for the recording studio during the ramble, and we had chosen a good time to visit since we were the only ones there at that particular time. With a little prodding, he let us go through some caution tape, around a massive hole in the floor, down some rickety stairs, and venture into the off-limit basement. It was eerie, dark, dank. The basement was divided into various rooms. More recording equipment waited patiently for someone once again to produce something. Random piles of electronics and faceplates were littered about on work tables. Bulbs were strung from the ceiling, and more material was on the walls. Spread out throughout the space were these crazy, various size doghouse concrete block structures. So they're basically concrete block, very small, low to the ground, big enough for a person to crawl into and kind of sit on the floor with your legs out in front of you. It was like something you might expect to see in a horror film, really. There were some power cords inside, light bulbs hanging in the corner. They weren't doghouse-sized prisons, though. They were using them to record unique sounds for the music they were making. I don't know when they were built or who used them, but I imagine Dwayne Allman crawling on his hands and knees into one of these concrete structures, a joint hanging from his lips and a light bulb and an amp, and being shut in to jam and capture the results. Maybe vocals were recorded from one, a bass guitar from another. It was really fucking crazy. So Mercer University, they're partnering with the Peyton Foundation and Knight Foundation to bring that studio back, along with a larger studio, museum, a small concert venue, and 2 floors of rehearsal rooms. I'm not a musician myself, but my brief visit and forbidden trespassing really made me think about if these walls could talk, and I may have collected a souvenir out of the Capricorn trash in the basement. Thank you.